big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and Friends, the class of 84, is on at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Tyne Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good morning, all. Welcome to NUFC Matters. It is definitely the morning after the night before, I think, for most of the panel, apart from George. I think everybody's had a couple of shandies last night, and if you were at the Sam Fender concert, I'm sure you had a fantastic time. Wonderful gig by Sam. Great to see St James's Park packed to the rafters as usual, but with black and white shirts, paying homage to a musical genius and a very humble kid. Deserves everything that he gets. All the plaudits to come his way. And well done to Newcastle United for organising such a well-organised event. Been to some gigs, as most people will know, recently. I've been to gigs before at St James's Park where it's been a little bit more shall we say, disorganised. But I thought, yeah, well done. Pat on the back for St James's last night. Despite the little sound issues that they had at one part of the gig, these things do happen. Tech issues can happen, unfortunately, in big stadium gigs, but it didn't spoil it too much. Wonderful set, and I'm sure that tonight will be just as good, if not better. So if you're going tonight, enjoy yourselves. Put your black and white shirt on and sing your heart out for the lad, because he really does deserve it. Queues already forming at the ground this morning at 8 o'clock, and Mitch and George have already had a chance to wax lyrical about the new strip, Stu. Give you the opportunity to talk about it now. Are you a fan?
2 words, Steve. A kind of Geordie film. I think it's purely belter. I really do. I think it's a magnificent strip. It's similar to the 80s one, the retro one that was out this year, that I wore for the cup final at Wembley. And I think it's smart, it's simplistic, and it is what it should be. Black and white stripes with a black bit down the middle, and it helps with the sponsor being white and black as well. And you just need the Champions League badge on the other arm, and we're off and ready.
Yeah, won't take long. Again, there'll be lots of questions about Castoria. We can't answer them really. You need to contact Castoria about sizes, deliveries, etc. But yeah, look, it is a really nice strip, and we did discuss it last night. Keith Richardson, thank you very much, mate. He says, another informative and humorous show last night. Thanks for allaying concerns regarding the budget. Stephen Kennedy straight in with a question, so let's go with this. He goes, hi chaps, question. How many years do you think it'll take to close the gap on the big guns with respect to financial fair play? It's great to see the steps have already been taken. He says, once we close the gap off the field, we can close the gap on the field, start winning trophies on a regular basis and making us a better proposition for the really big names. So it's a good question. I'm not sure it's one you can answer, Stu, or any of us on the panel for that matter, how long it will take. But I think ultimately we've already made a great start. And like I think most of us have admitted, we're ahead of schedule.
Absolutely. The off the field is just as important as on the field, or they go hand in hand anyway. Even with the things that was discussed during the week with the new bit in the Gallagher for the corporate, all this is just trying to get as much revenue in as possible, and every avenue, every nook and cranny will be searched to maximise the profitability of the club to bring extra resources in. So how long will it take? To me, it'll be 3 to 5 years to be on a level playing field, because the ones that have had a huge head start on us, they're able to sell players at a higher fee that we're not. We're getting rid of driftwood at the moment, and these people can sell like high quality players. And some of them that we've been linked with, their squad players are the ones that we're looking to bolster our squad. If you look at Tierney, McTominay, etc. So it will take time, and I can say with the greatest of assurance that whilst we're in Riyadh watching the match, me and Mitch were fortunate enough to be right next to Darren Eales. So when they were lifting the trophy, I know he joked that's him going to retire now, because he'd said he'd been in the job 100 days and we've already won a trophy, so that's my job done. But he was buzzing, and we asked the question, like, so how much is going to spend? He says, we'll spend as much as we possibly can. So that tells me that as long as it's within the financial fair play restrictions, there isn't a budget. And this new buzzword that seems to be flying around, amateurisation. There's 75 million. The same journalist wrote 150 million the week before. So to me, the 75 could be different. We'll use Madison example. Leicester all want money put down. They don't want it spread over like a 5-year period. So it might be like there's 20, 25 up front, and we'll spread the rest. So there's many ways to look at it. But even if we mention what Barry Hogan's doing, I'm sure we'll be linked to scores more players already this week. And if we get to 500 and sign 4, I'm trying to do the maths. I think that's not even 1%, is it? So, or 2% of the transfer rumours that we're linked with will actually sign. So it's good that we're going the right way, and to catch up, we'll do as much as we can. And as long as we keep performing, we talked about this during the start of last season, that we were overachieving on a weekly basis to the point that become the norm, and then the new bar was set ridiculously high for our expectations, but the new bar is set. And this season will be a case of solidifying and continuing in the same vein, results-wise. And that, again, will attract more sponsorship.
Yeah, Mitch, it's not a race. We know we've been, left in the lurch over the last 14 years by the previous ownership. So, it's not a race. And Newcastle maybe could, in the past, we've been leaders of our own destiny. We've, Keegan, for example, changed football forever with his different way of playing. Newcastle could probably change the way of thinking of football for a top four side by doing things differently. We don't all have to follow the same kind of methods. And we brought in experts in the jobs. We brought in Dan Ashworth from Brighton. We just need to look at the success that they've had. We're bringing players through, nurturing them and then selling them on for a big price. It's one of them. It's one of them things, isn't it? You don't have to follow the examples of other people.
No, you don't. And I think as Eddie Howe's shown this season with the squad, closing the gap on the field, it appears is easier than closing the gap off it. And so I think the original idea was a 5-year plan to implement everything, and we're probably about 3 years ahead of that by qualifying for the Champions League now. So we'll make hay while the sun shines. I think we need to take every opportunity we can to exploit every possible income source and make the most of what we've got. One of the downside of being left the way we were with Ashley was we've got lots of bodies needed to fill spaces to do certain jobs that have all been done by one person up until now. But on the flip side of that, it's a wonderful blank page to have. So people can go into a department and say, right, I need this, and this, and I can set it up just how I want it from day one. And we reap the benefit of that being organised as per whoever heads that department up wants it. And I think that's the opportunity that we have. Is we've got an opportunity to build something quite unique. And we don't have to follow other people's patterns. We can cut our own path. And I think actually, by qualifying for the Champions League this year, the way we have, we're already disrupting things. And that still seems to be the way to go these days. Is people seem to be wanting to see different ways you can disrupt the system, different ways you can do things and get the same or better results. So that's why it's so exciting, I think, is because it's almost like this next year, the entire season, next season is almost like a free hit. We've got nothing to fear. We can give it a go in the Champions League. We can give it a go in the league again. And as long as the attitude's right within the squad and within the club, there's no reason why we can't have repeated success. But then give us something else to then build on. That the next thing would be to win something. Carabao Cup was a great opportunity, but we might come out of that experience with some of the players having learned some valuable lessons on that pitch at Wembley last season going forward, So, yeah, why not do it our own way? Because like I keep saying, we're going to be damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. And so, you know what, inside the club, they must be thinking, bugger it, we're just going to do what we want and do it with our head held high, do it by the book, do it as upfront as we can, and we'll take it from there.
Gary, good to see you in the chat, mate. He says, love these broadcasts when I get a chance to watch. Very informative. Even the presenters brush up okay. Keep the faith from... none of you know what they've been drinking before they come on air. Keep the faith from all the team at Coast Sports, Coast Radio. Regards at Mr. Scurf. Good to see you, Gary. Good lad. Him and great radio station. George, timing isn't massively important for me in this. It's getting it right that's important, George.
Absolutely. And the way that our owners do things just fills me full of confidence. If you look at the way they've handled the golf thing, they were pariahs when they started off. They won the whole bloody shooting match now. And our chairman's their chairman, and most of the negotiations were handled by, I gather, I'm told, by Amanda and Neerdad. So, what we've got to worry about it. They're going to do it and do it is Neil keeps saying, through the front door, up front, so people can see what we're doing, and that's the way to go. And I just think next 2-3 years, there's an issue for me, and I think I've voiced it on other panels. That we've got to get rid of some of the Ashley Deadwood inside the stadium as well as outside the stadium, because some of the service people are getting at the ticket box and all that sort of thing is still not what it should be, and that's got to be sorted out as well. But slowly but surely they're hiring new people. I gather there's a new financial officer coming from Leicester, I believe, to join with this week. Well, all of that's got to be good, and I think we're nearly unrecognisable now, but I think in a couple of years we'll be even less recognisable than we are now. And the big plus for me in Champions League is we're the unknowns, we're the new kids on the block. We've got nothing to fear. And everybody coming to St James's Park got a lot to fear because they don't know where they do. It's a long time since any of them experienced St James's Park, and that's got to be to our benefit. So the next 2 years are just a dream for me. All the years I've supported it, it's going to be fantastic, and I just look forward to what they do for it.
Yeah, Jimmy, the point is really that, Newcastle have been very cute in what they're doing, and, sponsors for training grounds, stadiums, it'll all come. I remember Mitch and Stu on a previous episode of The Professionals saying that Newcastle will certainly go down the road of probably getting an official grass bloody sponsor, and, it'll be all kinds of sponsorship coming in. They've been very smart. They're retaining deals with previous sponsors as well. Look at the Fun 88 Asian betting deal, and restructuring the deal with Noon. It's all going into the same pot. And remember as well that the TV coverage Newcastle had last year was immense, and that'll go into the pot. Newcastle finishing fourth in the Premier League, Newcastle having a cup run to the Carabao Cup final. It all goes into the pot, and constant strips coming out by Astoria. People buy these strips because Newcastle are successful. It all adds up. So, I'm not an expert at it, but I do understand the fundamentals. And for me, there's nothing to be concerned about. There's only things to be positive about. And there's a lot of naysayers. Go on, Mitch. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, you've also got to remember some of these deals may seem straightforward, but aren't necessarily so.
Yeah.
The charges levied against Man City will impact anybody doing any kind of additional sponsorship deal. Every deal will be poured over, and particularly ours. I'm saying some people associated with Liverpool yapping about the seller shirt sponsorship and making their mouths go about how it's dodgy as fuck and this, that, and the other, and you're like, no, it's not. It's been ratified by the Premier League. It falls within the rules. But if you cannot have sponsorship from Saudi, well, okay, that means you cannot have any sponsorship from the UK. And is that how it works? I mean, if it was a vape shop in Riyadh that was spending £30 million on the front of the shirt sponsorship, that would be a different matter. When you're talking about an entertainment company who hold the rights for the region for La Liga, and so this is the kind of profile that we're dealing with. And all these additional sponsors, like you say, the official lawnmower sponsor or the official helicopter blade sponsor of Newcastle United Football Club or what have you, they'll be poured over like there's no tomorrow. And so things will just come in as they come in. They'll come in one step at a time. Also, the club will probably have a figure in mind for whatever they want for each thing. And again, that then has to fall into line with what the Premier League would deem fair and reasonable. And we're in this funny little middle ground where I think we can probably get away with pushing the envelope a little bit because they're pitching the levels, I think, at just the right point. Not looking too big for our boots or too greedy, but seeing significant uplift in terms of commercial income. And that's what we need.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And it's one of those situations where Newcastle United will do what's best for the club, and we're gone are the days of somebody at the top of the club doing what's best for themselves, and that's all we ever wanted, and it can only be positive. Lots of questions coming in. Let's try and get us through a few of these. Let's go player related, Stu. See, Luton are interested in Lascelles. Would you let him go at this stage? Says David Cook.
I wouldn't. I'm a big fan of Lascelles, and I think he hasn't put a foot wrong. when he's been on the pitch or even off the pitch getting these yellow cards. He's one of the designated senior team leaders, isn't he? And that's quite core to how Eddie Howe sees it. But I think it would be more up to the player if he says, look, I want to go, I want to be playing regularly, then I think he would be allowed to, as long as there was a fair valuation for him. But I think with the additional excitement or enticement, of Champions League football, he's been there in the Championship with us, been promoted with us. He's still the club captain. And I'm sure he'd get an opportunity if he stayed to lead us out at St. James one day in the Champions League. And that for a player to go into a regular relegation dogfight, which will inevitably be in, which one would be more appetising? That's to me, or more appealing to me. It's got to be for him to stay at Newcastle. But I can't speak on behalf of Jamal Lascelles and how he feels. But my personal preference would be that he stayed, because let's say they get 10 million from him, you'd have to spend a lot more to replace it.
Yeah, I love this one. Gary Milligan says maybe Newcastle could sponsor a couple of boozers. Step forward, Mitch and Penman.
I think we sponsor one.
That's gonna be quote of the day. That there's a quick one as well, a personal one for Stu here about he's one of the players he recommended. Question for Stu. He says, "You're a big fan of Tierney, Stu. I agree he'd be a great addition as he's an absolute workhorse. But who would you bring in at right back to challenge Trippier and take on a chunk of the games too?"
I don't think we need to bring anyone else in. I think Crafton fits safely into that option. And I think he's been undervalued, or his contribution the season he played was when he was playing in his proper position, which is right back, not playing wing back and stuff like that. I thought he was very steady and keen. And no way, me and Mitch, I say we were talking last night, it was probably slurring by the end of it, but we were talking about this clamour, like, well, we're going to have so many extra games, we're going to have this, and these are from, let's say, our critics in the media who are saying that we're not going to spend all this money, but we need to buy more players, and we're going to have extra games, but we're not going to qualify. So the Champions League will bring 6 extra games in. Now, if we bring 5 players in, it covers it, doesn't it? No, you don't need to buy another 20 players to cover 6 Champions League games, and anything above that is a bonus. So I don't think it's too much to worry about. Even if we get to the quarterfinals, it's 10 games in total that we would have played, and I think that would be above expectations for everyone. And another thing that we talked about with the Champions League last night was we finished 4th in England in the English Premier League. Now that 4th in the English Premier League is the best league in Europe, and that's been statistically proven for a number of years. Why wouldn't we be better than the 4th team in Italy, or the 4th team in Germany, or the 4th team in France or Spain or Portugal? These teams will fear. So it's agreed. Any group that we're in will be the group of death, and these teams won't want us as a 4th seed for sure. And I think we'll bloody a few noses. And going back to the original question, which I've just remembered, I don't think we need to bring a right back in, but I would really do hope we'll bring Tierney.
Yeah, okay. Lascelles, Mitch, would you let him go? Or are you in the same camp as Stu? Would you like to retain him? I mean, not many players. Somebody said, nobody will want to leave with us in the Champions League. Colin Wilson says, but would you let Lascelles go to Luton?
I think it's something you can put to the player and say, look, are you happy, or do you want to fight for your place and take opportunities where they come? He's certainly seen as still a vital part of the leadership group. That was very evident in Riyadh when he was there, interacting with the fans and everybody. That he's still very much an important part of the dressing room. So, and it would be a shame to break that up. He's earned the right to have the opportunities when they come along. He's at the back of a much. He's behind 2 very exceptional centre-backs who've had a very good season, and if he wanted game time, I'm quite sure he would go with our good grace. But I can't see him wanting to leave, to be honest with you.
What about you, George? Would you like to keep Lascelles at the club?
Yeah, only if he wanted to go as part of a reward or however you sort of encapsulate it all. But if he's happy to stay, then I wouldn't be unhappy about that. I think the message for me comes across when he does occasionally get on the field. And I watched the way that Trippier runs across the pitch to greet him on the touchline and make sure the armband goes on Lascelles' arm. And that tells me an awful lot about how he's felt by the squad in the dressing room. You know, there's a senior player on the pitch, happily giving up the armband to the man he regards as the club captain without any hesitation. So if he wants to stay, I would be happy to keep him for at least another year. If he wants playing time and a nice signing on fee for somebody else, then that'd be his choice. But I wouldn't be unhappy if he stayed. Quite the reverse, in fact.
Okay, a quick dental request. Is Mitch at work? I've got a wobbly tooth. Do I pull it out, says Barry.
Maybe it's better if you go and seek professional advice on that, Barry. And yes, I am at work. And actually with that, that's a good segue to say I've got a patient waiting in the waiting room, so I'm probably going to have to drop off now, lads.
Take care, Mitch. Thanks for popping on.
Soon.
Good luck.
Good to see you, Neil.
Take care, pal. Great to see Mitch, and thanks to him for coming on this morning. I know he's quite busy. Okay, Ian Toon Trader says there seems to be a lot coming out of other clubs, but nothing much about the Toon, which is meant as we run a tight ship. Who do you think will be our first big game changer signing through the door? I've got to be honest. The more I see in the papers about players coming in, lots of links. Barry's done a list, but I've asked him to go and have a look at that list again, because I noticed there's a couple of players on there twice. I'm trying to get an exact number of how many players we've been linked with before the end of the show. But I think Szoboszlai is looking to be. It looks like that would be a marquee signing, I think, and that would be the signing. I know we're still in for Maddison, and that seems to be, constantly building up momentum. But we've been down that road before. Any other names other than those two from you, Stu, that you think that could be the big one through the door? I know it's only speculation.
I had a call yesterday from, he's my daughter's godfather, so, it's a trusted source. He lives in Southampton. And apparently we've been visiting there quite frequently over the last couple of months. And he says one of our midfielders. So I was pushing him, is it James Ward-Prowse, which will please Mr. Hasty, or is it Lavia, who would be my preference? A younger lad who can come in and learn his trade and be Premiership ready if we needed him. So I heard that. The exciting thing is the window opens this week. There'll probably be people camped outside the airport, camped outside the training ground. And, I'm relaxed with it. I think whoever we get will be an upgrade of what we already have. They don't need to go and get a marquee signing, so to speak. Bring players in, because would Maddison be a marquee signing? No, because we've got players as equally as good. He'd be a better addition to the squad as a whole. He'd be an uplift on the squad. But I don't think we're at the stage yet, window-wise, where we need to get a marquee signing. Would you have said Isak was a marquee signing? Maybe now, but at the time, he was seen as a bit of a risk for the price and everything else, So I've got complete trust. And I think it was last week I said that I don't think the scouting team would be looking through social media and say, oh, there's a player we never thought of. Let's go and have a look at him. The work's already been done. The feelers are already out, and they'll have choice A, B, C, D for every position that they've targeted. So I think we might get a flurry initially, but something like Maddison, as much as, I think it's quite clear Eddie Howe wants him because he's trying to get him the last two windows. So it's something like him, that's not going to be straightforward, not just because other clubs are there. Because Leicester know they have to sell, but they are a reluctant seller. And as we all know, to get a sale over the line, you need a willing seller, a willing buyer, and a willing player. You need all three to get these boxes ticked before we can get them. My understanding is that from a career standpoint, Maddison would love to come to Newcastle, and I think we could match his wage request. And if Tottenham, who are seem to be the main competition, if they offer him more money, I mean, it was only said last year that people could be going to Brentford for 10 grand a week less. So maybe he'll go to Tottenham for more money. But the lad, surely, if he's got ambition, would want to choose Newcastle over Tottenham. And then it's just a case of what I touched on before, how the deal's structured. Leicester need the money. They need money up front. So it could be a case of, right, you can have them for 40 million, but we want 40 million down. Or if you want to do this amortization, then spread it 50 million over 5 years. So that all that goes on behind the scenes. But I really don't think we need a marquee, so to speak, signing. We just need better players than what we've already got. And you know what I mean? So we're good squad players now, become the bottom players. We'll also generate money. You know, I think people may have forgot already, we've got 15 million coming in for Wood. It's quite clear that Fraser's going to be sold. Darlow's going to be sold. I think the writing's on the wall for our enigmatic number 10, Mr. St. Maximin. All of that will generate at least 50 million. You've got Jamal Lewis at left back. He knows he's not going to get a look in. I think
Jeff Hendrick.
Well, I don't think we'll get too much for him, unless Al Hilal signed him.
We might get a set of balls.
40 million Al Hilal, because he's Irish international, you know, so it could be justified. No, but keeping it serious though. Jamal Lewis, you could get a 10 million for him. We're signing him for nearly 20. He is a current international. He's not fitting into what we've got. So we can generate 60 million, spend 150. We'll still spend, I reckon, 200 million, but it might be net around about 150. Depends on the outgoings, because all these new players that we've been linked with, they can't all get a squad number unless we get rid of some of the current squad. So there will be not so much a cull. There'll be, to me, it'll be carefully planned. Right, this is who we want to keep. These are open to debate. Can we get better than these in? And the players that we've been linked with strongly, like your Madisons, like your Tierney's, of course, they're an upgrade on what we've got. I don't think we're in a position yet we can go and sign a marquee player. Szoboszlai, yeah, he could be a fantastic signing from what we've seen, but we're all now Hungarian football experts after a strong link. It's amazing. And I'll leave the work to Steve Dixon and Eddie Howe and let them crack on and decide who's the best for us, as long as they get Tierney and Madison, because I'll look very stupid if they don't get any of them.
What about you, George? Marquee signings. I think Stu's nailed it as well. I mean, we all tend to agree pretty much on this platform, don't we? But yeah, I think he's right. I mean, marquee signings isn't what it's all about. It's getting the right players at the right place who are the right fit.
Who fit in? That's the key for me. And if Madison hesitates too long, well, we'll go somewhere else. In my view, it's not. We're not going to die because I don't get Madison across the line. There's plenty of others to look at and talk to. I mean, Isak, when they sprung Isak on, I had to go into videos and find out who the hell he was. And then I saw the recommendation for him from Abramovich saying, this is going to be the best young striker that Sweden's ever produced. And I thought, oh, he obviously likes him. And everything the lad said has been absolutely right. What a fantastic player we've got. And at 60 million, I think we'd get even more than that for him now. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's the surprises. Yes, we've got all the names, the Slumbutter, whatever his name is, and all of that. I mean, you know, they'd be great, but it's the surprises I'm looking forward to. Who they've been looking at that we don't know about, and who they're going to bring in, and they're the ones that I'm looking forward to, because it'll surprise everybody, and as Stu says, it lift the whole squad up another level. You know, and if we're looking at Leicester, there's only one other Leicester player I would be interested in, and that's Harvey Barnes. The pace that he's got could be quite destructive for us. But apart from that, you know, I'm happy to wait for the surprises that the scouting squad's gonna thrust on with. It's just all things to look forward to for me, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, trust the process is it's definitely the way forward, guys. You've just got to trust these guys, and they will get it right. There's no doubt about it for me. Okay, let's talk about this, Stu, because you didn't get an opportunity to talk about this. Colin Wilson says, morning all, what sort of transfer kit do you reckon we will have to spend this summer? £75 million being mentioned by Craig Hope. Surely it will be double that. We did cover this last night on the Amigos, Stu. I know you've had time to catch up and listen to what the other lads have said about this last night. I think Mitch probably put it across in the right way, shape or form, didn't he? I mean, it's not a £75 million budget, Stu.
No, but you know, in the same thing, he then said that we're interested in. He named 4 or 5 players where you wouldn't even get 2 of them for 75 million. So it's I can understand it's easy to pick it apart. It's what it's done. It got a lot of clicks on their website, and that's what the journalist rule is now. Sadly, it gets people talking about it. It needed to be explained a bit more. And again, the key word amateurisation. If that's the way he's going down, it could well be right. But figures going out, the transfer might be 50 million quid. We might spend 10 or 20 of that on the 50 this year, but we'll spend a lot more than 50 or 75 million quid. I genuinely believe we'll smash our transfer window record this summer. And it's been quite clear again with Eddie Howe. He said he's looking at 4 or 5 quality signings. You don't get quality signings for free unless you're very, very lucky. But then the knock-on effect for the squad is, if you do, you're paying someone a stupid amount of wages, which can cause unrest within the squad. This squad is grown organically, and it needs to be allowed to grow together with the right additions. So I honestly think we'll spend nearer 200 million than 75. In fact, if Mr. Craig Hope is watching, I'll bet him £100 that we spend nearer 200 million than 75 million, and £100 goes to the food bank if he wants to take that bet on.
Yeah, and journalists, as you say, that is their job. That's what they've got to do. You know, you've got to drive. You've got to drive, clicks towards your newspaper. Yeah. It's more about, look at the copy that I bought a Chronicle the other night for the first time in ages. £1.45 for a Chronicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, £1.45 for a Chronicle. I nearly went back to the guy at the counter and went, I think you've overcharged us, but I looked at the front of the paper. It was £1.45. Well, that's for a midweek. He hasn't even got the TV bit in.
I get 2 Sunday papers, and that's over £5 now.
So everything has been driven digitally. Eventually, at some point, the paper will be a thing of the past. It won't be worth them doing print. And I mean, already you need to look at the way the Chronicle's downsized. Thompson House is like just a white elephant now on the growth market, and they've downsized to a little office in Eldon Square. So yeah, it's all about clicks. I'm not saying Craig, Craig's no different. Craig's a good lad. He's clearly got a good relationship with it.
To be fair.
He's got a great relationship with the club. We have spoken a couple of times about getting him on the show. I think he might pop on the panel maybe over the summer. We're going to do it in February, but it just didn't. It didn't happen. Yeah, well, we'll get him on now. See, now you've got a bet, but I don't think he'd probably take you up on it, because I think he knows it himself. That's what Newcastle was spending. Always remember, that's what more or less. The owners had said in the build-up to coming into the club that they would spend that kind of money in the windows. But new people involved in the whole process. Newcastle won't spend money if they don't have to spend money, and that's great. And they will invest in youth as well, won't they, George? It's the way forward. We're already getting linked with Minty again, who has been previously linked with the club, and we brought a whole host of youngsters in. Garen Kowal went out on loan, of course, last year. So it's positive, and that's the way forward. Newcastle are doing things right with the first team and with the support team, really, if you like.
That's right, and it's they're the kind of things I say I'm enjoying seeing happening in the background, which in the past would have gone unnoticed in some ways. And I wonder if, you're saying about Craig Hope having a good relationship with the club. I'm wondering if that might have something to do with his story, actually. He may be doing the club a favour in some ways by playing down the expectations of all the idiots like us. I mean, as Stu knows, I said last night that if it's not 200 million by the end of the window, I'll be very surprised. But I hear locally as well that they're working much harder at persuading local youngsters to get involved with Newcastle United. I hear neighbours with kids, boys and girls who are being involved with academy teams and this sort of thing. All of that's very positive and has like new shoots springing up since the new owners took over. And looking at some of the people that are going into work for them and rumours of others as well, we've got Carrick's brother now working for and all that sort of thing. That's all very positive for me and just shows how far and wide the new owners are going to change things and change the culture, which is fantastic. I mean, for somebody like me, it's just a breath of fresh air, and long may it continue. And as you said, trusted the process. They haven't let us down so far. In fact, they've surprised us. As I say, when Isaac come in, I didn't know who he was and had to go and dig. And gosh, what a snip he's been. I can't remember the last time I seen a Newcastle player do a dribble down the wing the way he did at Everton. When he finally crossed the ball for Murphy to put it in the back of the net, there was about 7 blue shirts looking at each other with their hands in the air saying, what the hell happened there? When he just left them for dead. Lovely, absolutely lovely. And let's have some more of that. That's great. We need some more Isaacs.
Andrew says, question, as the club has a deal with Castoria for $5 million per season, do the club get any money from shirt sales? Is that the deal? I don't know that at all, to be honest.
As I understand, Steve, I don't think they get any money at all. The Castoria get the money, and the deal is the $5 million a year. And
it was a Mike Ashley deal, wasn't it, Stu?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a Mike Ashley deal, so... This is a thing with Seller as well, because there was 3 or 4 people that I know that we talked him over in for the shirt thing. But the Seller won it, and I was wary of it because of exactly what's being said. You know, it's PFF owned, and I thought we might have been a bit more savvy with it because it tracks. It's like it's an open goal, isn't it, for people to have a shot at. But the more you break it down, then you start saying, well, it wasn't that. When Mike Ashley had Sports Direct plastered over everywhere, or Leicester with their own, you know, there's so many things we can point at. Look at PSG, self-funded by the Qataris. So it's not unusual for that, but you've got to look at the bigger picture as well. They're talking about the fan zone and stuff like that. And I've been fortunate enough where I've been to one of probably the crown of the jewel, the Boulevard World in Riyadh. I've been there 3 or 4 times. And that's all Seller, you know. So if they can create something similar to that, but with the Newcastle theme in Newcastle, you know, it's not just the money. It's this. I was going to say something when Mitchell was talking earlier. They would be careful with sponsors announcements. They have to be like brands, you know. They have to go hand in hand. They have to be seen as a success. They have to be seen as potential growth, just like the club where we could grow together. So. When people are saying, I think there was someone for the Athletic, well, it was, I don't want to name him, he was saying about the 267% increase in revenue. Well, that's because we were getting sold for a song. The sponsor was getting sold for a song because Ashley didn't care, and that was his partnership, wasn't it? He extended the 48, who I think have been fantastic and wonderful, and they've been the best sponsors we've ever had. I'll have the tickets now, thanks very much. So we will grow, and I think we've got the stage. If you look what PAF did or what Yasser Ramayan's done with the golf, no one expected that announcement during the week. And when Seller was announced, the new shirt was announced, and I said it in our group, didn't I, Steve? There'll be more.
Yeah.
They'll do it steadily, and it's great. I think as fans, we should just sit back and watch the fume because it's all born from jealousy. That's it. They can dress it up in anything they want. It's just jealousy. Every supporter of their club would want to have the potential to grow that way you have now because it's unlimited. And as a football fan, you want the very, very best for your team, and we have the very best owners. And this is why I had my little sermon last week because we should be so happy with what we've got, and it's only going to get better. And
look at egg on the face of the Manchester United fans now that the Qatari deal's been blown out of the water, as you and Neil said weeks and weeks ago.
It was quite clear. I mean, how can you someone with less personal wealth than Mike Ashley trying to buy Man United? It never had up. But the fact is that thankfully someone's now tried to highlight it, and then Khalifa from the PSC chairman and UEFA chairman, he's come up. So it's state owned. So everything that they've thrown at Newcastle, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So that's the perfect example, George. They all wanted it. Were probably the worst because they were twerking for ages to get the Saudis, and just their greed spoiled that deal. They wanted so much more, thinking, oh, these people have got money from oil, they don't have brains. And what you'll see going through with transfers and with new sponsorship deals coming in, call it creative accounting, call it whatever you want, but it'll all be done within the rules. We'll absolutely play to the rules. We'll have the cleanest set of books in the Premier League, and they'll make sure of it. So this is why it doesn't matter who we sign. You know, we've been linked with that many. We could spend the next 3 hours. I'd say Barry gets his list.
Well, we've got the number. We've got the number for this week.
No, but it'll be next Saturday show if you ran through the names one by one, wouldn't it?
Okay, so the total last week was wrong only because with the spreadsheet it was a couple of players made it onto there twice. So last week was 103 different. So in total, it's been 103 different players in total since the start. So that sounds better than it was last week actually. But we've had 63 players linked this week, so that's fine. Barry, he's just said, sorry, Steve, I never thought about multiple times for the same player. This one should be right. The combined total as players only once, which is great. Thank you, Barry. Barry's doing this out the goodness of his heart. So thank you for doing it, mate. But yeah, 100. So still, honestly, 103 players to be linked with. It's crazy, isn't it, George?
Yeah, it is, isn't? But it's Newcastle United, and it's not a new phenomenon. We've always been in that position. I mean, even in my younger days, the Chronicle and Journal were always full of people who were supposed to be going after, and you never got excited until somebody like Joe Harvey or Stan Seymour said the name on the lips, like the Chase Supermac for unmercilessly. But it was once they said it was going to happen, you knew it was going to happen. So this is. It's a different level and different range of people to buy, but it's still Newcastle United as far as I'm concerned. And I just think it's people talking about all these big names associated with my football club. It's just wonderful, bring it on. Let's see who comes. But if they're talking about that, they're not talking about anything else. That'll do me if they keep trotting out all these names.
Would it be cheaper to move Old Trafford brick by brick down south, or cheaper to move the supporters one by one up to Man U? I think you know the answer, Sam. I think we'll sell or let go on top of those loaned out. Lascelles, Fraser, Lewis, Karius, ESM, 4 in plus 2 top, 2 under 21s. Okay, a couple other questions we had. This one was from Tom. He says, would you like to see Tim Krul back in Newcastle? I think we covered this last week, Tom, but I don't really want to see Tim Krul back at Newcastle. If we do have to replace a goalkeeper because we'll lose one, I'd much rather go for Fraser Foster. Tim Krul, great servant to the club, but like Stu said in the past, no room for sentimentality. I think Fraser Foster could still do a job for Newcastle in the Premier League if needed. What about you, Stu?
Totally agree with Steve. Fraser Foster would be my choice. He's been playing in the Premier League this season. And he's a better keeper. And the reason behind it is because they were at Newcastle in the past, wasn't it? It's for the Champions League squad players and stuff. But they don't need to get someone in just for that. They just have to have one less for the squad. Yeah. So they could keep the 3 that's expected already and go with a squad of 24. And as we touched on just before, if we're only going to be playing 6 games, you don't need more than 24 players, do you?
No.
So, but I think the goalkeeping thing does make more sense because Karius' deal's up. I know that saddens George, but hopefully you can sign to keep George happy because he's a handsome fella. as is Karius, George. Then it's Dubravka. That's the key to me. Is he going to be told stay and you'll get the cup games? And there's always a chance of injury and getting extended. Because I've always liked Dubravka.
Me too.
He's got. Yeah. I put him in that best keeper, didn't I, when we did the thing? So I've always rated Dubravka. But would he be happy to be second fiddle to someone? But if we say, right, you can have the League Cup games, you can have the FA Cup games, there's always a chance of a suspension injury. No, you've got an important role to play. And if he's happy with that, then I'm happy. So that'll give us 2 quality keepers, and we'll just need one more for a backup, whether they ask Gillespie to stay on or convince Karius not to keep flying to Italy every week to see his pregnant girlfriend. And, I don't think it's as dramatic as some people are making out. We just need one keeper for cover, and that's it. And to me, Fraser Forster would be a really good addition.
Yeah. The Dubravka thing, I think now, correct us if I'm wrong, I'm sure the Chronicle ran a story yesterday, but I didn't have time to read it. But this was heading off to the Sam Fender gig. I think it came out last night. It's disappeared off my app. I'm not going on the website because I can't stand the pop-ups. But I'm sure there was whether it was a direct quote or something from him, but doesn't regret going to Manchester United, but I certainly think there's noises, George, coming out from the Dubravka camp that he wants to stay at Newcastle. And like Stu said, on the terms that he's going to be number 2, but he could, anything could happen to Nick Pope.
That's the gist of the article. That's the gist of the article, Steve. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
So you've got it in one. In terms of being the goalkeeper, if we had to get somebody back for Champions League, I agree with you, Stu. Fraser Foster's the one that's current and played in the Premiership. I have a personal reason why I like Tim Krul, is because I got to know Tim Krul very, very well indeed. It was, yeah, and there was a period of my life where I was travelling backwards and forwards to Greece and Turkey and other places for the university. In the university, cheapest flights, so that meant I knew it was always going to be through Schiphol, through the Dutch hub. And of course, if Tim was away on international duty, he quite often was on my flight or on the flight coming back. So I always took the opportunity to have a coffee with him and sometimes sit with him on the flight. So we got to know each other quite well. But that's a very personal thing. But I agree with you, Stu, in terms of the current, somebody that could walk into the Premiership tomorrow. Fraser Foster is the guy.
JC says Tim Krul's debut might just be the best debut we've ever had. Was that
Palermo?
Palermo, yeah. Alan, I thought Dubravka's against Manchester United was good because of the game as well. It was a huge game, that, and he came in and that's where I think he set the stall out. Alan Thompson, George, says, which players would make the 1950s team? Let's concentrate on the 2 he's asked, George. We haven't got too long to go in the show. So would Isaac beat Len White or would Wilson beat Milburn?
Isaac would beat Len White because of his pace. Len was quick, but not as quick as Isaac. And to have that pace and that skill. And Wilson, not getting near.
Not a patch on Warjackie, is he?
No.
David Hetherington would like to know: Did Stubbsy see the Mr. Blobby lookalike?
Yes, I did, and I seen who sent it, and it was Chippers. And I swear I'm going to find one of Chippers because he does look like what's his name, Sam Smith. I'm going to put it on next week's lookalike. That'll for a bit.
That's you doing it now. Chippers, you're messing with the wrong bloke, mate. He might be.
At the start of the show, I had the pink hair still, and I thought I'm just.
He might be hundreds of miles away, but he's got your card mark now, Chippers.
Careful every time you get here and knock at the door, Chippers. Be careful how you open it.
How far do you think we can reach in the Champions League next season? Says I like coffee. I certainly think we'll get through the group stage. Last 16, I'm going to go for.
I think quarterfinals.
Okay, George.
Quarterfinals. That's how positive I am, and it's because of the unknown factor. Don't know what we're about and all the rest of it. It'll be a surprise to some of them. And full St James's with war flags doing a thing. It'll set the hairs on the back of the necks of all the foreigners coming in. So no, I think quarterfinal.
Where's Stubbsy from then? Just out of interest.
No, he's a bit right, Stu.
Right, okay. I thought it was some kind of nickname. What's everyone's hopes for the first match of the season? City away for me. They always start slowly, says Michael. You always want to play the biggest team for me, and Man City's the biggest team. So Manchester City, I'd prefer to have them at home rather than away, because of the crowd, obviously. And it's nice to start your season with a home win and a home game. But yeah, Man City at home for me. If a close second would be probably Liverpool and then Manchester United. Any one of those big teams. Stu?
Well, for a selfish standpoint, I want the first game to be at home because I'll be in Newcastle then, or I can extend my stay to be there. So if they're at home on the Saturday or the Sunday, I'll be able to go to it. And I always love the first game of the season, the anticipation, and it's normally a decent day's weather as well, isn't it? So it's even going back to the 80s when we first started watching, you would and then end up getting battered 4-0 or 2-1, or, you still had the first game of the season buzz. We were there last year, Steve, weren't we, for the Forest game?
Yeah.
And I love it, and I like it at home. I think the way the Premier League do it, they try to give us one of the Northwest teams on a second or third game, like a Liverpool or Man City, away. I think we'll probably get Tottenham at home. Seems to be a popular fixture, doesn't it?
Mhm.
And so I think we'll be at home. Well, I hope we're at home. And why not Tottenham? Just show them the big gulfing difference between the two teams again.
George, who would you like at home?
Well,
Or away?
I agree with you, lads. One of the big ones, and City's the team, really, isn't it? And considering how we played them last year and got that 3-3, let's have another one of those. Except that we'll win it this time instead of drawing it. So City at home would be fantastic.
I think they'll put Man City at home, to be honest. I think the Premier League will put Man City at home. You know, if they win their treble tonight, you know, to celebrate, have the trophies and fans and stuff like that.
Good idea, yeah. It's a good shout, that, yeah. What's your Champions League prediction for tonight, Stu? We've already had George's.
What a waste of a question. As if you didn't know the answer to that. 3-1, obviously.
3-1. The Man City. Chris wants to play Juventus in the Champions League final, and they've got to use their second kit. When was the last time we played a a final game of the season at home? It's a good question, that. Somebody will be able to find it out there. Statu will know. Stu, do you know anything about Michael Mills that we're being linked with?
Well, that's that young lad from Port Vale, so not just what everyone else has seen. But this is a thing where we're talking about the transfer window. They've already spent $7 million on that.
They've signed Michael Mills, haven't they?
Have they?
Yeah, I think they've actually signed him. Yeah.
So this is where I think a portion of the money that they're going to use will be it's not just the first team they need. It's the people coming through as well, isn't it?
When
you're spending 20 to 30 million on the second string.
Well, that's right. When you're forking out millions for 15-year-olds, you're getting pretty serious, I think. And apparently this kid's fantastic.
They're putting just going to the Shields Gazette, Liam Kennedy's paper. Newcastle United are putting the finishing touches on a wonder kid deal as Tottenham open talks with Maddison. So that's the headline in the Chronicle. So Michael Mills putting the final touches to it. The report is, if it can just get away with these pop-ups, it comes from the Football Insider. That's the source. Newcastle are putting the finishing touches the signing of Michael Mills after securing a full agreement. The player's just 14 years old, is currently with Port Vale's academy, but the Magpies will pay £200,000 to secure him.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So you've got to bring them through, haven't you? You give them a chance, and I think it's been neglected. Our youth set up for too long. And this is, to me, it's got Dan Ashwell's influence all over it, isn't it? So you can't wait to start from scratch again. You're going to have to fill in and bring players in to raise the level of the other ones. And if two of them make it into the first team, they've probably saved themselves 50, 60 million, haven't they? So
it emphasises they're going far and wide.
Yeah.
All these they're coming up from all over the place. So it shows how wide they're casting the net, which is great.
It does. That hour has passed quickly. George hasn't had the ring on the doorbell, so it's been a pleasure to have George back on the professionals today. Thank you for coming in. Thanks to Mitch. Stu's off to the bar for 12 hours of work.
Good to see you, Stu.
Believe it, already been on the Jaeger bombs. I don't know how on earth you do it. I'm back on a wonderful recorded podcast tomorrow with Lee Clark. We talk about last season. We talk about next season. Talked about Bobby. Lots of people asking, will Bobby come back to Newcastle? We asked the question. We discussed how Bobby's doing. So that's 11 o'clock in the morning. So set your reminder, and don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Have a great day, lads, and I will be back live Monday night 6 o'clock with the Fans Forum. Until then, take care. Have a good weekend.
See you, Stu. See you, Steve. Bye for now.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free, but if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.